Hey everyone, this is Ill Factor, music producer, Beat Academy founder, and instructor. And I'm coming to you live from my studio here in Miami, Florida, and I want to guide you through some tips and tricks that can help you better your music production. So let's go ahead and get started.
So let's talk about how using velocity can really add some life to your drums. So we're going to use a standard 606 drum kit that comes standard in Ableton Live 9. And we're going to click and drag that into your session view window. And that's going to open up a MIDI track with the drum rack installed on it. Next thing you do is let's go ahead and step sequence. That means that we're going to draw in the notes instead of performing them with a MIDI controller or recording a live performance. And what we're going to do is we're going to double click on any empty clip slot. And when you double click, you give yourself a 1 bar empty MIDI clip to go ahead and use. You guys will see the 1 bar here. So I'm just going to expand that so we can take a good look at what's going on. Now, when step sequencing in Ableton Live, you can just simply double click and that'll draw in the desired note that you want. So we just double click there. That means that the kick will be played every time we launch this clip. And so let's go ahead and just create a sequence. I'll put a kick on bar beat 1 and the snare on bar 1 beat 3. So let's go ahead and hear that. Okay. Now, by hitting the B button on your keyboard, that'll access the pencil tool. So now what we're going to do is use the pencil tool to draw in notes. And the difference between just double clicking and using the pencil tool is with the pencil tool, you can click once, drag your mouse to the left or right, and it will just add notes repeatedly. So it'll just give you, it's pretty much how you can repeat that specific note that you're inserting, right? So the notes get repeated, and you can also click and move backwards to erase the notes that you've inserted. Now, the notes will be repeated depending on your grid value. So whether you're using adaptive or fixed grid, it depends on the grid. So I'm going to right click here and I'm going to go from every 16th note to every 8th note. And you'll notice that the grid widens. So now this time when I click, it's a wider note or a wider note value. So this is every 8th note. So we'll click, drag to the right, and now we're playing 8th notes. This is also really helpful too, a really helpful tool to just do a lot of cool, especially if you're programming or step sequencing some trap beats. You can go ahead and use this to lower the value of specific notes, just like that. So we went from 8th note to 16th note. I'll even do it again here and bring those two notes like that kind of thing. So the pencil tool is really useful to kind of just do all these nice little repetitive notes in there. Okay, but now let's talk about the velocity. And that's the lines that you see here on the bottom part of Ableton Live. Okay, now if I left the velocity the way it is, that means that each and every note that we step sequence is going to play at the same volume, giving it, there's no dynamics, meaning that one note isn't played louder than the other. And so what we want to do is just add some dynamics to our performance. So I'm going to click these hi-hats. We're going to just focus on these two here, okay? So I'll leave the pencil tool, go back into our regular mouse, and we're just going to select this second hi-hat. And we're going to lower the velocity on this hi-hat, and we'll raise the velocity on this one. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll lower the velocity, and you notice the velocity changes the color of that note. So you can actually tell the lighter shade of red or almost pink means that it has a lower velocity, or the dynamics has changed for that specific note. So the note or that sound will play a little bit softer in volume. So obviously the one in darker red will play a little bit louder in volume. So I'm going to click that and drag that velocity. So that's just going to be louder. And this is what we call accent. Okay, so that means that this note is accented, or it's going to be highlighted or focused on. So now that I have these two, we've got a hard hi-hat and a soft hi-hat being played. Now what we can do is just highlight the two and duplicate by hitting Command D or Apple D. If you're using PC, Control D. So now what we have is a strong hi-hat and soft hi-hat, strong hi-hat, and this is what it would sound like. Now, let's listen to what it would sound like with the velocity fixed, meaning everybody with the same velocity. So I've just switched this back to eighth note. We're going to go ahead and click and drag. And here's a helpful tip. While you're dragging your notes via pencil tool, and I'll just show you what I'm doing again. I'm going to click and drag to the right. If you hold your mouse down and you go up and down, you can actually change the velocity of the notes that you've inserted. So if I drag my mouse up, I can actually increase the velocity on all the hi-hats. And if I drag it down, that'll change the velocity on all the hi-hats that we just inputted. So let's put it all the way up and... Right, so you kind of get the point. The hi-hat is just at a constant volume or a constant level. So in order to add some life, what I'm going to do is just click that second one, drag the velocity down, and so I don't have to go on and click each single one. Just highlight these two and just duplicate that, and it'll just duplicate the changes we made. And now listen to the difference of what velocity will do to the hi-hats. It really helps bring that hi-hat to life. So let's take it a step further. We can, let's say, every 16th notes, and I'll repeat the same process so you can kind of get the idea. Now what I'm going to do here is get that second one, second note. We'll lower that in velocity, and I'll just go ahead and duplicate that as well. And let's listen to the difference here. As opposed to just having all the notes being played at the same velocity. So you can see how manipulating velocity of certain notes can really add some accent or some life into your drum. So if you're coming to a brick wall and you're figuring that your drum programming just sounds too stiff or too robotic, go back and mess with some of the velocity, whether you're using Logic, Pro Tools, Fruity Loops, or Ableton Live. This can really add some depth and dynamics to your drum programming. All right, so I hope this helps, and be sure to subscribe and check out more videos coming to you soon from Beat Academy.